At Lu Tingxin's 28th birthday banquet, someone presented him with a woman right in front of me. Shedding my usual gentleness, I smashed a wine glass and trashed the venue. Then I packed my luggage and left home alone. Everyone said that the helpless Mrs. Lu wouldn't last 3 days before slinking back in disgrace. Lu Tingxin didn't care either. A lone orphan, where can she go if she leaves the Lu family? But after countless 3-day stretches passed, some even suspected I had died out. Only then did Lu Tingxin call me for the first time, only to find the number had been disconnected. Later, at an exhibition of a renowned painter, Lu Tingxin lost himself in front of a profile portrait. He offered a sky-high price to buy the painting. Song Wenjing smiled apologetically. "This is the most satisfying portrait I've ever painted of my wife. I can't part with it." 1. Lu Tingxin's 28th birthday banquet. Dressed in the most exquisite and beautiful gown, I appeared on Lu Tingxin's arm. No sooner had we stepped down from the stairs than Lu Tingxin let go of my hand, leaving me standing there alone. Everyone's gaze followed Lu Tingxin as he walked away. I was forgotten in the corner. One by one, people gave gifts to Lu Tingxin. He gestured indifferently for the butler to put them away, until someone presented a beautiful woman, and once again, all eyes turned to me, sympathetic, eager for a spectacle, mocking. Over the years, I have seen too many such ill-intentioned looks. Lu Tingxin's usually expressionless face showed a brief moment of distraction. That beauty was too much like his deceased first love. "How dare you send a woman to me right in front of Mrs. Lu?" Lu Tingxin smiled mockingly. The gift giver said ingratiatingly, "Mrs. Lu is generous. I'm sure she won't mind." "It's not that I won't mind. They've simply calculated that I don't dare to. An orphan girl raised by the Lu family. How could she dare say no to the new head of the Lu family?" Lu Tingxin twirled the wedding band between his fingers, laughter spilling from his eyes. "Since Mrs. Lu agrees, take her away." Before Lu Tingxin could finish his sentence, I had already walked over to him. Looking at the beauty's face before me, the gift giver really put thought into it, knowing how to cater to Lu Tingxin's tastes. Suddenly, I felt a bit tired. It seemed I could no longer follow Grandma's advice and keep up the pretense of being Mrs. Lu. The champagne tower behind me was given a gentle push. The beautifully stacked crystal glasses collapsed with the lightest touch. Broken glass and wine splattered everywhere, throwing the banquet into chaos. Someone exclaimed, "Mrs. Lu has gone mad." 2. I ruined Lu Tingxin's birthday banquet, but he didn't seem to care much. The butler had already seen the guests out, and the servants were cleaning up the mess. The beauty was asked to stay, standing quietly by Lu Tingxin's side. Even her temperament seemed remarkably similar to Lu Tingxin's first love. Compared side by side, it really did make me look like I had lost my mind. Lu Tingxin toyed with the beauty's fingers in his hand, then looked at me and spoke casually. "Why are you so angry? If you don't want to see her, I'll have her live somewhere else. Don't worry. I swore to Grandma that I would never take away your position as Mrs. Lu." The woman next to him also spoke up to persuade me. "Mrs. Lu, why be angry? A man like Mr. Lu would never have just one woman. I only admire Mr. Lu. I won't affect your status." I took off the ring from my finger. I placed it on the table in front of Lu Tingxin. He raised an eyebrow. "Here's your ring back." Lu Tingxin picked up the ring and tossed it into the air. The diamond ring's dazzling light cut through the air before falling back into his hand. He tossed it behind him to the woman standing there. "Yours now, Mrs. Lu won't take a few million yuan ring even when it's given to her." Lu Tingxin stood up, gave a cold laugh, and instructed the butler, "Hire a few teachers for the missus to teach her some manners. I don't want to see such rudeness again." After taking a few steps, he turned back. "Throw the ring in your hand onto the ground." The ring rolled on the floor with a soft clatter for a few circles and stopped at my feet. "If you don't want the ring, then throw it all away." 3. Lu Tingxin left with his men. The roar of the car engine as it drove away was especially loud in the night. The butler sighed beside me. "Madam, why must you provoke him? You know he holds a grudge against you." I picked up the ring at my feet and threw it into the trash can. "Uncle Chen, you go attend to your matters, don't worry about me." The butler sighed and left. I went upstairs alone and changed out of the intricate, exquisite gown. I put on a white t-shirt, fetched my suitcase, and took out all the clothes that were clearly mine from the wardrobe, placing them into the suitcase. When other couples quarrel, they have to consider the divorce agreement, but the bond between Lu Tingxin and me is so shallow that only a matching ring remains. No one would imagine that for the grand wedding that once shook the city, the groom and bride didn't even have a marriage certificate. I still remember the words Lu Tingxin said at the wedding back then. "The only name that belongs on my household register is Wanwan's. Su Xinyan, you were never supposed to marry me, but what could I do? I still married him, the man I had loved for 7 years since." My girlhood, I thought that one day I would finally move his heart, but in the end, I became nothing more than Mrs. Lou in name only in everyone's eyes. When I dragged my luggage out the door, the entire villa was eerily silent. It was just like that rainy night when my grandmother first brought me home. 13-year-old Liu Tingxian stood on the stairs, his gaze cold as he looked at me, but turned and went to the kitchen, brought me a warm glass of milk, for I booked a plane ticket after a 6-hour flight and another 3-hour drive. I returned to the small, remote town in the south. People say that when you grow old, you want to return to your roots, but the truth is, even someone who is homeless can miss their hometown deeply even if there is no family left there. I rented a small courtyard in the town. The local dialect felt both familiar and strange. I was young when I left, and I've been living in the northern city ever since. I had long forgotten how to speak it. Luckily, the person in the next courtyard was also an outsider, though he had moved in before me. The other day when I was grocery shopping, I couldn't understand an elderly local woman's dialect, and he helped me out. The next day, I made a corn pancake to thank him for his help the day before. That was when I learned he was a painter who had come here to sketch. He looked like he had just graduated from college, radiating a youthful, passionate energy. I had left the people and matters of North City far behind. In such a simple and unspoiled environment, it suddenly struck me that I was only 25 years old. Yet, because I was in the Liu family, I had been putting on airs as Mrs. Liu. I even began to feel that I had already become old and world-weary. I bought some flowers back from the street, and the small yard was now full of roses I had planted. Beside the flower bed sat a little rocking chair. It might be a bit simple, but everything suited my taste. In the Liu family's garden, the yellow roses Lin Wan loved were everywhere, and an expensive piano sat in the glass greenhouse. That was the rose garden Liu Tingxian had specially designed for her back then, and no one was allowed to touch it. Back then, grandmother wanted someone to uproot those roses. It provoked Liu Tingxian into a furious rage. If the roses are gone, I won't come back to this home either. No one ever mentioned the matter again. Lin Wan and those roses became forbidden territory in the Liu family. 5. That afternoon, someone knocked on the door of the small courtyard. Song Wenjing, wearing a hoodie and with a backpack slung over his shoulder, beamed at me when he saw me open the door. "Sis, I'm planning to go up the mountain to paint tomorrow morning sunrise. Want to come along for some fresh air?" he said, pointing to the mountain not far behind us. I knew that place. It seemed quite famous. Most tourists who come to town are drawn by that mountain. I was tempted. "Don't be scared. I camp out a lot. I'm very experienced, and it's perfectly safe." With his enthusiasm, I ended up nodding yes. Song Wenjing really was as experienced as he claimed. He immediately went back to fetch another bag. He was carrying both sets of camping gear on his own, with painting tools in his hands as well. I wanted to help him carry some of the load, but he firmly refused. "I'm very strong. Carrying this little bit is not tiring at all." On the way up the mountain, we talked about the past and the future. My past seemed rather unremarkable. It was mostly centered around the Liu family, around Liu Tingxian. In the end, I became nothing more than Mrs. Liu in name only. Song Wenjing was different. He always had endless stories to tell and boundless dreams for the future. Life is an experience, and my dream right now is to become a renowned painter. I have to at least try for my dream once. Let me tell you a secret. I ran away from home. If one day you find the yard next door empty, it might mean my family has come to take me back. I looked at him and smiled. I never thought we were both runaways. It's just that he still has a family who would come to take him back. While with my disappearance, Liu Tingxian might even celebrate. We reached the mountaintop just in time for the sunset. The warm golden light fell on us, creating an almost unreal beauty. I looked down at the small town below, all bathed in golden light, quiet and serene. Song Wenjing had already started bustling about, setting up the tent. I asked him, "The sunset is beautiful too. Won't you paint it? I prefer sunrises. Each day is a new beginning." Representing infinite possibilities and vitality, sitting on the stool Song Wenjing had brought out, I watched him busy at work, but my mind kept returning to the new beginning he had just mentioned. Leaving the Liu family was the bravest decision I had made in all these years, yet I felt like a timid and cowardly fugitive. Returning to the remote small town, I shrank back into that little courtyard. I never thought about what to do next. Was I to waste my whole life away in that small courtyard? I'm only 25 years old. There are still infinite possibilities ahead of me. 6. Song Wenjing pitched the tent, then took out some food and water for me. He lay down casually on the mat next to me, resting his head on his hands, gazing at the night sky just beginning to fill with stars. "Hey sis, do you want to try looking at the stars like this? It feels different." In the Liu family, I was always expected to follow all sorts of rules of etiquette, and everything I did had to befit my status as Mrs. Lu. The phrase I heard most often was, "Madam, you cannot do this." I had never even imagined lying down to look at the stars like this before, but just then, Song Wenjing didn't give me any time to think. He had already reached out, pulled me by the arm, and in an instant I was off the stool and onto the mat. "Lie down. Quick." I stopped holding back and did as he said, lying down. The starry sky seemed close at hand, as if I could reach out and touch it. Song Wenjing and I just lay there like that, gazing at the vast starry sky and chatting about everything under the sun. I also made a decision in my heart. I would be brave enough to step out. Walking away is nothing but an escape. I should meet new people and see the vast world outside, until even if he stands right in front of me, he no longer matters. 7. In the latter half of the night, I fell into a deep sleep, though I was in a simple tent outdoors. I felt an unprecedented sense of peace. In the morning, I walked out of the tent in a daze. Song Wenjing had already set up his easel, and his expression had turned serious. The rising sun gently brushed every inch of my skin. I gazed toward the place where the sun was rising. This was also my new beginning. "Elder sister, don't move." Suddenly, Song Wenjing beside me spoke excitedly. Startled, I stood still, only able to glance at him from the corner of my eye. Clearly, he was using me as his model. Only after he finished drawing did I rub my stiff neck. Indeed, being a model is no easy task. "Let me rub it for you, as thanks for being my model." Song Wenjing's hand pressed on my neck. His hands were strong. I squinted in comfort, enjoying his massage. All the way down the mountain, Song Wenjing was talking about the inspiration that had just struck him. I looked at that painting and only thought it was quite nice to look at. Anything beyond that was lost on me. As soon as he returned, Song Wenjing plunged straight into his own courtyard. I turned on the TV, and the sudden appearance of Lu Tingshan's face on the screen startled me into taking a step back. My hand, which had been about to change the channel, paused. I was glad about the decision I had made the night before. Lu Tingshan often appeared on TV and online. I couldn't keep running away forever. In the news interview, Lu Tingshan seemed hardly changed at all. When asked about the recent rumored marital discord, he remained expressionless and cold. "The wife just threw a tantrum. She'll come back after going out for a while. Everyone envies me, a helpless orphan girl, for being taken in by old Mrs. Lu and eventually marrying Lu Tingshan. They say it took blessings from a past life, but only those who live it know what it's like to be ignored by everyone, resented by Lu Tingshan, holding the title of Mrs. Lu in name only, yet drifting like rootless duckweed in the Lu family. Every year when the yellow roses bloom, Lu Tingshan has the servants cut the flowers from the yard and arrange them in every vase at home. The piano in that glass greenhouse is dusted every day by the servants. Lin Wan is dead, but Lu Tingshan reminds me of her existence at every turn. "I heard you and Mrs. Lu argued over the assistant you've been keeping close lately." Lu Tingshan frowned impatiently and instinctively reached for the wedding ring on his finger, but there was nothing there. Only then did he remember that Su Xinyan had been unusually stubborn this time. She had returned his ring and even dared to run away secretly. He thought back to the day the butler called him, panicked, saying the Mrs. was gone. When he got home, he realized that half of the wardrobe, the side belonging to Su Xinyan, had been emptied. Only his suits hung there, empty and lifeless. She was clearly trying to use running away to force him to get rid of the woman who looked like Lin Wan. He knew that what she cared about most were the things related to Lin Wan, let alone a woman who resembled her. But so what? Grandma was gone. She had no family of her own, and her only support was him. As a child, whenever she felt wronged, she liked to hide away alone. In the past, Grandma used to spoil her. He didn't have the patience to go looking for her now. Once she's suffered enough out there, she'll realize how good she had it in the Lu family, and she'll come back sooner or later. So he said to the butler, "She's an orphan girl with nowhere to go if she leaves the Lu family. None of you are to go out looking for her. Notify me only when she comes back." 8. Noticing Lu Tingshan's impatience, the host quickly shifted the topic from personal matters to business. When it came to work, Lu Tingshan's expression visibly relaxed. It seemed that even the mention of Mrs. Lu was enough to make him frown. I poured myself a glass of ice water, grabbed my laptop, and started updating my resume. Most of the people left in the small town were elderly. It was a nice place for retirement, but offered few job opportunities. If I wanted to work, I would have to leave. It was not until evening that I finally stretched and got up to prepare dinner. With a simple meal of 3 dishes and a soup, I sat at the table and suddenly wondered if Song Wen-jing next door had finished his work. Does he get so absorbed in his painting that he forgets to eat? Just like Lu Tingshan did when he was working. When Grandma was still around, Lu Tingshan had stomach pains several times due to skipping meals. Later, whenever I had time, I would bring him food at the office. At first, his secretary would stop me outside his office, and I would have to wait for an hour or two. Eventually, he seemed to get used to it and would let me in to interrupt his work. He would eat and then continue. I sighed, put on my coat, and knocked on the door of the courtyard next door. Hearing no movement inside for a while, I was about to leave when the courtyard door suddenly swung open. Seeing that it was me at the door, Song Wen-jing's initially impatient face broke into a smile. "Sis, I was just painting you, and the moment I opened the door, there you were." Song Wen-jing was still holding a paintbrush in one hand. There were several smudges of paint on his clothes and even some on his face, making him look a bit disheveled, but his smile was so dazzling that those paint smudges only became accents, making him seem a bit more vivid. "You haven't eaten yet, have you? Would you like to come over to my place for a meal?" Upon hearing my invitation, Song Wen-jing clutched his stomach and let out a belated wail of hunger. "I'm so hungry, but sis is the best. I'll go put down my pen." Over the next few days, Song Wen-jing and I seemed to fall into an unspoken understanding. He came to my house for dinner every day, cleaned up before leaving, and even took care of planting flowers and vegetables in the yard. It's a pity I don't have a younger brother. Having one like him would be really nice. I sent out several job applications and received interview invitations. On the day I decided to leave, I got up early to say goodbye to Song Wen-jing. As I opened the door, I saw several black sedans parked in front of Song Wen-jing's yard. Beside the car stood several men in suits who looked like bodyguards. I hesitated for a few minutes before stepping forward. As I approached, one of the bodyguards reached out to stop me. "Don't touch her." Song Wen-jing walked out from the courtyard. The sunny, cheerful look on his face was gone, replaced by a chillier, darker expression. Song Wen-jing took my hand and led me into his courtyard. The door slammed shut behind us. "Don't follow me in." The bodyguards exchanged glances, but finally said, "Okay, sister, did you come to call me for a meal?" Without those bodyguards around, Song Wen-jing seemed to regain his previous cheerfulness. "No, I came to say goodbye." Song Wen-jing's voice suddenly rose several decibels. "Where are you going?" I told him about submitting my resume and getting the interview. "Although it's nice here. What you said that day on the mountain, every day is a new beginning, with infinite possibilities and vitality, made me think, I also want to give myself a fresh start, so I have no regrets." "So, sis, have you let go of that person in your heart?" I looked at him, somewhat surprised. Song Wen-jing blinked. "Don't treat me like a kid." An artist's eyes are very sharp. Hearing him say that, I felt a little embarrassed instead. "Well, I suppose I've let go." "Then where will you go to work?" "Sis, North City." Although I had also thought about moving to a city farther away from Lu Tingshan, I had been living in Beijing ever since my grandmother took me in. I grew up there, went to school there, and my classmates were all there. Why should I force myself to move to a strange city just to avoid Lu Tingshan, only to slowly adapt to everything new there? Then I'll leave with my sister. It just so happens that my family has come for me. 10. I didn't expect to end up catching a ride in Song Wen-jing's car. The nervousness of having to return to Beijing and possibly face Lu Tingshan again gradually faded amidst Song Wen-jing's endless plans. Life back in Beijing seemed to be going smoothly. The interview went very smoothly, and I received the notice to start work next week. I also rented an apartment near the company. It's just that Song Wen-jing, after disappearing for 2 days, has now become my neighbor again next door. I went out to take out the trash and saw workers moving furniture in and out of the house next door. Glancing over, I noticed the tall and long-legged Song Wen-jing standing inside, directing the workers on where to place the furniture. "Why are you here? I wanted to surprise you, but you caught me." Song Wen-jing naturally bent down and took the trash bag from my hand. "I missed your cooking, so I moved next door again to mooch off you." I was indeed pleasantly surprised by his appearance. Living in a strange place, having him as a neighbor gave me a bit more sense of security. "Then I'll make a few dishes later to celebrate your move." For convenience, we finally decided to have hot pot at home. The spicy broth was boiling vigorously. Song Wen-jing picked up a freshly cooked tripe and put it in my bowl. After just one bite, I was so overwhelmed by the spiciness that I couldn't help grabbing the drink beside me and gulping down several mouthfuls. "So you can't handle spicy food?" When you said you loved hot pot, I thought, it's okay, maybe I just haven't had it in a while, so it's a little hard to get used to. How long had it been since I last had hot pot? I could hardly remember. Hot pot used to be my absolute favorite. When grandma was around, she would have it with me. She'd have the plain broth, and I'd have the spicy mala one. Once, Lu Tingshan worked overtime at a meeting until very late, and the food I brought had already gone cold. It happened to be snowing lightly outside, so I suggested going out to eat. I took him to have hot pot. Lu Tingshan always preferred mild flavors, so I specially ordered a split pot. But Lu Tingshan was frowning the entire time on the way home after the meal. He said, "Don't eat this anymore, you reek of it." I never had spicy hot pot again after that. When you go without something for too long, even your taste buds stop being used to it. But soon enough, I was sweating and eating with gusto, rediscovering the joy of having hot pot. After the meal, Song Wenjing cleared the table, cleaned the kitchen, and opened the windows for ventilation. He took the trash bag out with him when he left. 11. Life back in North City turned out to be calmer than I expected. The media didn't discuss Madame Lu, who had been absent for so long, and no one from the Lu family came to find me. My existence had never been worth noticing. The media, however, grew somewhat curious about the assistant Lu Tingshan always kept by his side. I casually scrolled past the photos the paparazzi had secretly taken. All I could feel was how utterly ironic it was. Did Lu Tingshan truly love Lin Wan that much? In the photo, Lu Tingshan bent down, letting the woman straighten his tie for him. When getting into the car, he carefully shielded her head. On rainy days, the woman held the umbrella high to shelter him, but when he took it, he tilted it entirely toward her. So it turns out that love for a person can be transferred so easily, just because of a similar face. News about Lin Wan had always been well protected by Lu Tingshan. No photos had ever been leaked. Everyone was guessing whether I had been completely neglected by Lu Tingshan. If I were still in the Lu family, perhaps I would now be waiting for a husband who never came home, but instead, I was busy drafting proposals and attending meetings. Busy doing. Song Wenjing, I told you, you can't keep acting all cutesy with me like this. I pushed away the head leaning on my shoulder, but Song Wenjing pushed my laptop farther from me and said, displeased, "A handsome guy like me is right in front of you, and you're staring blankly at some old man." It was the first time I'd heard anyone call Lu Tingshan an old man. Just thinking about his expression if he ever found out made me laugh out loud before I could stop myself. When I finally stopped laughing and looked up, I noticed Song Wenjing's expression had turned serious. "Is he the one who broke your heart before?" Lu Tingshan of the Lu group. I know him. I glanced at him with a hint of surprise. As far as I could remember, I had never seen Song Wenjing at the Lu household. When I was little, my mom told me to call him uncle. I couldn't help myself again, clutching my stomach and collapsing onto the sofa in laughter. "Ha ha ha, he's only 4 years older than you, and you actually call him uncle. Ha ha." Song Wenjing pinched my cheek. "He looks older than his age." Lu Tingshan had been involved in company affairs since childhood, making him seem more mature than his peers at a young age. That seems to make sense. "So, you are the missing Mrs. Lu of the Lu family." Song Wenjing's face suddenly loomed large before my eyes. Only then did I realize that as I was laughing, I had somehow ended up resting my head on Song Wenjing's lap. I tried to push him away and sit up, but he was uncharacteristically less accommodating than before, his eyes fixed directly on me as if demanding an answer. "Yeah, so, am I the other woman you keep outside?" Song Wenjing chuckled at his own words as soon as he finished speaking. I reached out and patted him. "Don't talk nonsense. Besides, I've already left the Lu family and returned the ring, then I'll find a lawyer. You two get divorced tomorrow." "No need, we don't have a marriage certificate." I gave a bitter smile. "No marriage certificate, so no divorce needed either." The only bond between us turned out to be that ring symbolizing marriage. Perhaps after being Mrs. Lu for too long, even Lu Tingshan himself has forgotten that we never even had a marriage certificate between us. Perfect timing. Then why not help me get a marriage certificate? 12. Staring at the freshly issued little red booklet in my hands, I was momentarily dazed. Back then, I thought my marriage certificate would bear a photo of me and Lu Tingshan. Never did I imagine that the groom would not be him. Last night, after Song Wenjing's relentless persuasion, I agreed to a fake marriage with him to appease his family. Song Wenjing took the marriage certificate from my hands. "I'll take this home to show them first, otherwise my mother will keep thinking I'm lying to her. This marriage feels utterly unreal." The grand wedding 3 years ago had all the ceremonial touches but no marriage certificate. Everything was like a facade of happiness put on for show. Now we have the marriage certificate, but no wedding, yet I feel grounded inside, maybe because with no expectations, there can be no disappointment. Song Wen-jing took the marriage certificate back home for a visit and came back with good news. My parents have agreed to let me hold an art exhibition. This collection is my best work yet. 13. A month later, Song Wen-jing's art exhibition was successfully held. I had to work overtime that day, and it was nearly 8 o'clock by the time I got off work. As I hurried to the exhibition, among the figures near the entrance, I spotted a silhouette that looked very much like Lu Tingxian. I shook my head, probably just someone with a similar build. Once inside the venue, many of the paintings on display felt very familiar. A few girls holding art portfolios walked past me excitedly. Hurry, hurry, Song Wen-jing seems to be just ahead. We have to get his autograph this time. I heard this is his last exhibition, miss this chance, and we'll never get his signature again. I followed the gaze of a few girls. Sure enough, I spotted Song Wen-jing, who stood head and shoulders above the crowd. He had his head lowered, patiently signing for someone in front of him. I thought this was his first art exhibition, so how could it be his last? My eyes searched around, and then I noticed the introduction about Song Wen-jing. Near the entrance, it turned out he was already a renowned painter. With his works having been exhibited nationwide, and many had sold for sky-high prices, I stood there, suddenly hesitant to approach. The Song Wen-jing described in that introduction didn't seem like the same boy I knew, the one who would act clingy with me. I quietly slipped away. When I came out, I saw Lu Tingxian standing by the roadside, frowning as he talked on the phone, so I hadn't been mistaken just now. 14. Lu Tingxian dialed the number he had never voluntarily called before, over and over again, even though he had long known that only a mechanical voice would answer on the other end, telling him that Su Xinyan's number was no longer in service. But he realized that apart from the string of numbers, he didn't know who else to contact to find her. Thinking of the profile he had just glimpsed at the art exhibition, a vague sense of unease kept flickering through his mind. What he had been most grateful for before was Su Xinyan's background. She had no family, pitifully few friends, and no one to rely on in this world. Only him and the Lu family could be her support, so he always felt that even if she died, Su Xinyan wouldn't truly leave the Lu family. Earlier, the butler had called once and told him that the number had become disconnected. He hadn't thought much of it. Unless she dies out there, she'll be back sooner or later. The butler was utterly horrified when he heard this. Could something have really happened to the missus? He sneered coldly. Impossible. If something had really happened, the police would have contacted him, her husband, long ago, but more than half a year had already passed. Su Xinyan never appeared again. When he saw that painting today, he felt his heart give a violent thump. The person in that painting looked extremely like Su Xinyan, yet also seemed not quite the same. The light in the eyes of the woman in the painting is even more vibrant than the morning sun behind her, so dazzling that it is hard to look directly at her. Su Xinyan is not like that. She is more like a pool of stagnant water that never ripples. Even a clay figure has a trace of temper, but Su Xinyan is made of water. Squeeze her gently, and not only will she show no temper, but she can barely force out an angry word even after a long time. When bullied too much, she just hides away alone. He had once seen her crying alone beside the glass flower house. Hearing his footsteps, she scurried away like a startled kitten and hid in her room. What he had disliked most about her back then was exactly this inability to act with grace in public. She was already Mrs. Lu, yet she only dared to put on airs outside. The moment she returned to the Lu family home, she was back to her true, timid self. He wanted to buy that painting and hang it in Su Xinyan's room, so she could look at it every day and be subtly influenced by it. Song Wen-jing said, "This is the most satisfying portrait I have ever painted of my wife. Sorry, I cannot part with it." Hearing these words, he felt an inexplicable sense of relief. The person in the painting was truly not Su Xinyan, but as soon as the exhibition ended, he felt an inexplicable urge to contact Su Xinyan. She had been angry for too long. It was time for her to come back. After a series of robotic beeps, he finally lost patience and looked at the bodyguard. "Go find out where my wife is, and bring her back directly once you do." 15. When the Lu family's bodyguards knocked on the door, Song Wen-jing was setting the table in the dining room. As soon as the door opened, several bodyguards rushed in, but he stopped them. "Who are you looking for?" The bodyguard's gaze locked onto me, still holding my shovel. "Ma'am, Mr. Liu has instructed us to bring you back." I hadn't heard that title in over half a year. For a moment, it felt like another lifetime. "What are you babbling about? She's my wife." Song Wenjing pushed the bodyguards aside as he headed out. They exchanged a glance. One of them took out his phone and dialed Lu Tingshan's number. "Mr. Liu, it seems ma'am has gotten married." Lu Tingshan arrived faster than I expected. In just a few minutes, he was already standing at the door. Though his expression was frighteningly grim, the bodyguard stepped aside. Lu Tingshan tried to push past Song Wenjing, who was blocking his way. He failed to move him. "Get him out of my way." Lu Tingshan barked at the bodyguards. "Lu Tingshan, barging into my home and trying to take my wife away. Does that really seem appropriate?" Only then did Lu Tingshan truly look at Song Wenjing standing before him. "So the woman in your painting is my wife? Shouldn't I be the one demanding an explanation from you?" "Explanation for what? We've already registered our marriage. She is my lawful wife." Lu Tingshan gave a cold laugh, his eyes meeting mine from a distance. "Su Xinyan, have you gotten bold, running off behind my back to register a marriage with someone else? Come back now, and I'll act as if nothing ever happened." He reached one hand out in my direction. Every time before, as long as he extended his hand, I would take it without hesitation, but this time, I didn't move. "Lu Tingshan, I've already returned the ring to you. From now on, we're even, square things. The Lu family raised you, and you think a simple square things cuts all ties with me? Su Xinyan, what the hell is wrong with you?" Lu Tingshan's eyes were bloodshot. Song Wenjing hadn't been paying attention, and Lu burst right in. He grabbed my hand, my wrist felt like it might snap under his grip. "Go divorce him right now. Isn't getting the marriage certificate with me what you wanted? Finish the divorce, and we'll get ours." With my free hand, I slapped Lu Tingshan across the face. Everyone in the room froze. Lu Tingshan seemed unable to process what I had just done. "Lu Tingshan, have you lost your mind? I've left the Lu family, and I don't want that marriage certificate anymore. Once I'm gone, you can take anyone you want home. Can't we just let each other go?" "Why should I let you go? You were raised by the Lu family, and you'll die in the Lu family." Lu Tingshan suddenly picked me up, but just as he reached the door, he was stopped by the Song family's bodyguards who had just stepped out of the elevator. "Mr. Liu, if you dare to take her away today, I will charge you with kidnapping. You don't really think I can't even protect my own wife, do you?" I was still shaken. The situation before me was something I had never imagined. I thought that if I left, Lu Tingshan would feel relieved. I thought that if I proposed calling it quits, he might even be happy. So why is he putting on this act now? I don't know which side's bodyguards made the first move, but in the end, the scene descended into chaos. Song Wenjing also joined in and started fighting with Lu Tingshan. Fortunately, Song Wenjing won, but his left cheek was punched by Lu Tingshan, and it looked quite serious. "Mr. Liu, at your age, fighting isn't really your thing. You should stop trying to act tough." I tugged at his sleeve, worried that Lu Tingshan might retaliate against him later. Lu Tingshan had never been in a fight since he was a child, nor had he ever looked so disheveled. Several of the bodyguards were also bruised and battered. "Take him back. Don't come looking for me again." I dragged Song Wenjing back into the house. He covered his face, frowning. "Honey, he really hit hard. Can you check if I'm disfigured?" I pulled out the first aid kit. "Don't call me that. Let me put some medicine on it." The moment I leaned in, he suddenly turned his head and kissed me on the lips. "That works way better than medicine. Earlier, when Lu Tingshan was here, why did you just let me call you honey?" I shoved the iodine into his hand. "What you said back then was we were just getting the certificate, not really getting married." Song Wenjing smiled, looking triumphant. "I just wanted to secure a legitimate claim to you first, so that guy Lu doesn't take you away. This is marriage by fraud. Yeah, I traded going back to work at the company for my freedom in marriage. If this is fraud, I've trapped myself for life. If you divorce me later, I'll end up with no wife and stuck working at the company forever. How miserable." I finally understood why he said it was his last art exhibition. I poked the injured side of his face. "Are you stupid or what? Yeah, so don't leave me, at least for the rest of my life. I can hurt and be happy at the same time." I nodded, and Song Wenjing pressed his luck even further. "Honey, can I kiss you openly now?" Before I could answer, his lips were already on mine. The scene almost got out of hand. Song Wenjing was like a kid finally getting his snack. By the time I tried to push him away, I had already gone limp as water. "Song Wenjing, don't be afraid. I'll be gentle. In a daze, I finally understood firsthand what Song Wenjing meant by being physically fit. 16. Song Wenjing moved us to a new home. He said he was afraid Lu Tingshan would come to harass us again. The change of place did bring some peace for a while, until Song Wenjing took me to a wedding dress shop to choose a gown. I had no idea at all that we were going to hold a wedding. I've been preparing since the day we got our marriage certificate. When I painted that picture, I was already thinking that I must make you my most beautiful bride. Song Wenjing handled every detail of the wedding himself. I was only occasionally pulled in by his mother to offer him some input. When I was choosing a hotel, I unexpectedly ran into Lu Tingshan in the courtyard garden. I wanted to avoid him and leave, but he saw me first. Xinyan, will you come back? Just like Grandma said, I'll take good care of you for the rest of my life. The Lu family is where you grew up. Are you abandoning not just me, but our home as well? I pulled my hand out of his grasp. All those years with the Lu family, you never treated me as family. I have a new family now. I just hope you won't come to bother me anymore. Song Wenjing's parents both like me very much, especially when they learned that my parents died young and I have no other family in the world. Mother Song hugged me and cried with heartache. She said that from then on, she would be my mother. I really like the home Song Wenjing has given me. It's a home where I can truly belong in the Lu family. My only relative was Grandma. Once Grandma died, there was nothing left to miss. I saw Song Wenjing come out and waved as I ran toward him. He pulled my coat tighter around me, then turned to the hotel manager beside him and gave instructions on the details. Lu Tingshan stood where he was, his gaze following my departing figure, but that figure never once looked back. Extra. Lu Tingshan's perspective. I've always prided myself on never misjudging anyone in all my years in business, but I never expected that I would completely fail to understand Su Xinyan, the person closest to me. I thought she had no one to rely on and could be easily controlled, yet after she went out one time, she suddenly became emboldened. Back then, my grandmother insisted we get married. I agreed in words, but only held a wedding ceremony for her sake. I deliberately avoided registering our marriage, and she endured it without even complaining to my grandmother. I intentionally placed Lin Wan's favorite yellow roses in front of her, and seeing the paleness on her face, I finally understood what truly bothered her. So when that woman who looked like Lin Wan appeared before me, I agreed without the slightest hesitation. Sure enough, Su Xinyan's expression turned extremely grim. I just never expected her to lose her temper and even throw away our wedding rings. I always thought of her as a runaway child, but I never realized she had already grown up without my noticing. I was no longer her only support. She had a job, new friends, and even got married. I was waiting downstairs for the bodyguard to bring her back when I heard him say she was married. I almost dropped my phone. She said she wanted to call it even with me, as if she wanted to cut all ties and become strangers for the rest of our lives. I got so worked up that I lashed out. As it turned out, I couldn't even beat that brat. I remember he was annoying even as a kid. I'm only a few years older than him, yet he called me uncle. Now that he's grown up, he's even more irritating. But when Su Xinyan saw him get hurt, her eyes were full of concern. Maybe she didn't even notice it herself. Her eyes were only on that brat, but when she faced me, they were full of guardedness. I suddenly felt as if I had lost something I might never find again. Their wedding invitation arrived in my hands, the smiles in the photo particularly piercing. We, too, once had a grand wedding, but I was so perfunctory that I couldn't even be bothered to take a single photo with her. I left all the arrangements to the steward, staying aloof from it all, as if I were merely a guest at that wedding. She must have been disappointed with that wedding, right? For so many years, I got used to her being by my side, took her devotion for granted, and always thought she would be there forever. Only now do I realize that some people, once lost, will never belong to me again. She had forsaken the Lu family, yet she had forever kept